हेल्थ केयर हम लोगों के लिए सबके लिए जरूरी है और इतने सारे प्रोडक्ट्स भी अभी हेल्थ केयर में आ चुके हैं। बट आज जो मैं स्टोरी आपको प्रेजेंट करने वाला हूँ इज ऑफ अ फाउंडर हु इज रियली डिसरप्टिंग हेल्थ केयर, हाउ इट हैपेंस रियली एट द ग्राउंड, इंटीग्रेटिंग सॉल्यूशंस विद लैब्स, हॉस्पिटल्स एंड कंज्यूमर। तो ज्वाइन करो मुझे आज एंड वील हैव दिस इंटरेस्टिंग चैट विद द फाउंडर ऑफ CrelioHealth। Hi Abhimanyu, kai chala?
So lovely meeting, and we've been trying to have this podcast for a while.
Yes.
But I decided that this time when you message, I'm gonna be here.
No, thanks so much. Glad because CrelioHealth is one of the companies that I've always followed, like the good things you guys are doing. Especially during COVID, I believe that Crelio was at the center of everything. I believe you must have felt in your business as well.
Yes.
And then, the new beginnings that the whole world is seeing. So I wanted to have this conversation.
Sure.
Really, like, the whole journey for a startup that I know you had started when you were in college. So,
yes.
It really relates back to a lot of founders because, many of the founders today or, our audience is like Gen Z.
Correct.
In colleges, and
Correct.
it really helps to relate, and hear from someone who has done it.
Yes.
Right from there. So मैं चाहूँगा वहीं से बताओ, start करते हैं.
Sure.
Like what led you to this idea and what gave you that strength within that you have to pursue this, and how the beginnings happened.
Sure. So in our college, I was doing an internship with this company called Untitled Chapter.
Okay.
You must have heard about them, like Sarang Lakhare.
Okay.
And so the Inda Chap they are basically a contact management solution where they help you synchronize contacts across web, mobile apps. And they actually started, we did this when the Android phones were very early, So smartphones were becoming it was an app that kind of made sense in the early smartphone era a lot, that it's so easy to synchronize, and you want your contacts to be updated. It was, I interned in that company. Sarang and our team used to work out of his a room in his house, and it was like a garage startup kind of feeling. So I got a feeling of what kind of startups, the environment of starting a company out of your home, and of course. Like Mukund and me, we both come from business background, so we always had some inclination towards some sort of business.
Okay.
I've seen my dad running his business, the ups and downs and challenges that the uncertainties of the business, right? And these are something that most people don't get very used to, but we always saw it as growing up that this is very normal. And so that and the whole excitement of creating an app that could just make a big company was what was the initial push.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why healthcare? You had any background?
Yes. So healthcare, no, I didn't. We were both software engineers, and healthcare was honestly मैंने कभी नहीं सोचा रहेगा कि I would go out and start a healthcare company. One, because I was always I used to avoid biology. Okay, for a couple of things that I don't like. I don't like the whole experience of taking my blood out. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like when people are not well, and the whole experience of hospitals and the healthcare system, what it makes you feel, right?
Right.
So I don't. I get
There's
very
even that smell.
Yes, that entire experience, the smell, the people, the stress, and it changes you a little bit in the sense it makes you highly anxious. I'm also quite an anxious person, but hospitals just made me quite obviously everyone, but and the uncertainty of the whole experience is also something that adds to the worry, right? So I didn't like that whole experience at all. Plus I had no background, no knowledge. So what happened? There were a couple of things that happened in my last final year. we ended up interning in a company called as Praxify, and there we actually built an mobile app, which was one of the early apps in the Indian Play Store for a hospital that could basically be a patient account, manage records, do appointments, and whatnot. And this was in 2011, 2012. And we were just starting to see what technology can solve in healthcare. Parallelly, my grandfather actually, he got sick. He had a brain infarct, like a clot in his brain, and because of that, he got paralyzed and then eventually passed away. And this all was happening parallelly while I was working here, as well as that experience, which was like quite close. So I'm the eldest in my family, like my mom's and dad's family in here. So I was staying with my granddad in the hospital sometimes, or at home. We used to share a room, and I grew up like that. So seeing that whole experience very closely as an individual on how the system operates, small things. How is patient registration done? How much time does it take to get the admit? What type of diagnosis are performed? How is a diagnosis performed in the first place? What are the uncertainties? Because again, it's hard to say that it's impossible to tell the exact problem immediately, right? That is something engineers get very uneasy about. That okay, let's find the problem and let's dig deeper. Healthcare works like that. It is always a little uncertain, and I think the system itself has evolved very differently. So, वहाँ पे like they used to do like test day and night, and just note down values and then try to do something. And they used to heavy medications and all that, and you don't know what's happening, right? And then that whole experience, it changed how I look at the system. I felt there were inefficiencies that we could genuinely improve. Not just we, but I think technology can. And we believe that okay, we can actually make these things slightly better, if not much better. And obviously, I think ultimately the goal is to empower healthcare providers to make better and faster decisions. That was the kind of healthcare inspiration that we got. Obviously, the impact is higher because not impact particularly in a single area matters so much, but the impact on the society is much higher today on a healthcare solution.
Right.
Though we didn't know back then that revenues are not that easy also, right? It's got its own challenges.
Right.
So, yeah.
So tell us more about, once you decided. So I also have heard that even finding customers is difficult, especially when you're a startup.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
So because, hospitals are one of the slowest decision makers when it comes to technology.
Yes.
So वो वाला part थोड़ा elaborate करो आप कि वो फिर आपको कैसे
finding customers, Indian customers is even harder. I think people, when they build for B2B, like business solutions for healthcare in India, is a very different level. It's like playing a game on a hard mode, right? It's kind of like that. It just makes things much harder. And I think the Indian healthcare system takes time to change. Of course, it's similar worldwide, to be honest, but at least inclination towards change is slightly better across in some countries. So, so one is we felt healthcare mein kuch to karne ka hai, right? From that journey, and then the question was what do you do? Because again, we don't understand the healthcare system internally so well that we can pinpoint something.
Right.
So we started speaking to clinics, labs, and hospitals. And in that entire, so we just said, our hack was that when we had to do initial user conversation, we told people that we have an app for whoever we are meeting. So if you're meeting clinics, we told them we have got a electronic record manager. If we went to labs, we said we had a lab management system. If you went to hospital, we said we are having a hospital management.
So you mean you said without having it?
Yes, we said that we are almost at the verge of finishing it and we want feedback.
Okay.
So our goal was, because we get some credibility.
You wanted to get some,
Yes. Otherwise, it's like, okay, you can't make. Then they start judging you and telling you everything that is not important.
That's the entrepreneur's hustle, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we basically kind of said that, okay, we want to talk to you, get more insights. We spoke to, I think, 20, 30 hospitals, most of the like well-known ones in Pune, multiple labs, or 30, 40 labs, and actually like I think more than 50 clinics we went and just waited for doctors. I think, and in that entire experience, we realized that we kind of then graded that, okay, doctor's solution looks exciting. Practo was growing, so that was a influence, to be honest, a big influence, positive influence, because we felt health tech mein kuch ho sakta hai. Labs were also quite of a good conversation because we saw a lot of technology adoption happening. And in hospitals, we felt that it is just too big for us to go and solve today.
Right.
And that's kind of how our assessments were. Then what we said, okay, let's go and build an app. What do we start with? So incidentally, one clinic got excited and said they would be okay to buy from us.
MVP.
Yes. And next thing we did is we discussed pricing before the product.
Okay.
Nice. One of the things that
These small things, but they make a lot of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Like, always discuss money first. That is something again
important lesson.
Yeah, my partner is a Marwadi, and like we both have learned that from the business side. पैसा का बात करो. And ये सब होने के बाद then we figure out, okay, these guys are okay.
So this lab was in India or in the US?
Yeah, this was a clinic in India in Pimpri Chinchwad.
Okay.
Because we had to meet now. Like US तो बहुत बाद में आया actually. US came in much later. So and Pune mein we are looking at this clinic. We actually built a workable application web app, and it was a Python and like a basic JavaScript on top, and we deployed. And we used to go and meet the doctor, get a sense how are the situation, like how are they using that, after deployment, like just visiting them a few days a week. And we realized they only use the solution for billing.
Right.
And we used to go and ask, okay, we have a prescription module, and you can prescribe and print it. Because we took a lot of effort to build that module.
Right.
And
software developers really get
emotional about such things. I know, and we were too.
Yeah.
And we are like, because getting the prescription right was something we spent some time, and then we realized, okay, these guys are not using. Then we actually, at that point, we had a realization. It's a very interesting story. We were setting up the internet connection there. Because I think of my early 20 customers, most places we have set up the LAN connection.
Okay.
Right? And while setting up the internet connection, we realized that the lights went off, and the clinic went on uninterrupted. They just continued the way it is. And that time we realized that doctors don't need software. They don't need electricity. So they don't need software at all.
Right.
And that was just a realization. We were just standing there and we just had that, the business has zero impact without electricity. Imagine, we are trying to sell a cloud solution. So it's a drastic shift. And that is when we realized, okay, this is not going to work. The clinic piece. We moved back, we came home, we decided, okay, I think labs mein chalega because everything is printed and they depend on technology. And we can, if they are dependent on technology, that means we can push it a notch further and make it better.
Right.
It's like if we use like certain apps more regularly and they get better, it helps you. Right. That is something that we are thinking.
Right.
And that's when we kind of axed the clinic solution, moved to labs. We are like, okay, abhi labs karne gaye. Of course, our friends weren't happy because we just built an app to not use it. But yeah, then that is how we kind of moved to labs, hospitals.
So you only were doing the coding that time, or you had hired your team? How did you guys manage?
Yeah, so
because for young people, it is also difficult to get a team. Basically.
Yeah, team by team as in they were our friends, college friends and founders. We actually were 5 people we were expected to find and start the company.
Okay.
And we were all 5 of us trying.
Okay.
And we distributed work among us 5.
Okay.
But then eventually things didn't work out, and
priorities also changed.
Yeah, priorities changed, like family pressure some people had. So they, one of them had a family business of his own. The other 2 had family pressures. One to get married, one to just settle. Yeah. So within all that, it just didn't work out with the rest.
Okay.
Great friends even now.
Okay.
But it's just
okay.
So me and Mukund, we continued,
okay.
And we both coded. The lab solution, we both were basically involved,
okay.
and did it ourselves. Yeah. Okay.
So then, when did the first breakthrough of customer happen then?
So for the lab customer, also we had the customer before we built it.
Okay.
So we sold the customer on a brochure, okay. And we said that we've got a product. And this is the price, and if you buy, you will have the product in 3 months, because we just about to, finish our beta testing. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? And what we were trying to do is, we knew that we could build it in that time, but we wanted credibility.
Right.
Otherwise, going to customers and telling them you have nothing,
right.
and then going with some early version of the product doesn't give you credibility.
Right.
They don't trust you to.
Right.
No, and it's a business.
They can't rely their business on you if you.
Exactly, it's a business solution, right? Yeah. So people don't want to do that. So, and of course, we told them that you are one of our early customers, and that's the.
So you get some discount, you get some freebie.
Correct. And we'll always value you, right? That's of course there.
Okay.
So, and we still do, and I think that's it.
But that's good actually, because you're coming from a software engineering background, but I think you took the business lessons the right way.
I hope so.
Which is a good thing. I mean, because many times, people coming from one trade could actually forget the lessons of the other trade, engineers making mistake of business.
That's right. I think that happens often with. I think we also still have some sort of a build bias even now, right? As engineers. We are still excited to build new things. Right. So that excitement is always there. We don't wait till a business is proven. Right. So of course, that is. Okay. But try to kind of push it towards more business.
Okay. So what was this timeline like? So I know that healthcare, a big timeline is 2020, for example. Yeah. But before that, you started in 2013, and then for the 7 years, was this a smooth, gradual journey or?
So we had the first customer, in fact, in end of 2013 itself.
Okay, great.
With all the pivots for the lab side and all that. So that we understood, we kind of getting the first lab was actually just the beginning, though, because our product took good 6 to 12 months to just stabilize, and it used to crash very often. And if it crashed, the lab was waiting for us to fix it so that they can release reports. So, the system then kind of basically evolved from there. I think for the next 3 years, we are just incrementally adding more customers, because everyone adding had some sort of a requirement that we didn't have.
Right.
And basically, Indian customers can be quite demanding. Right. Where they'll be that one thing that 99% people don't need, I really need it. So it's that kind of a conversation that used to happen a lot. And but to be honest, we won those customers. Right. And when we gave them that thing, they really loved it. And then they vouched for you. Right. And majority of the time, that is how we are growing. Right. We got one salesperson and about 3 to 4 developers. That is how it went for most of the time, actually, after that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So for about 3 years, we are bootstrapped, growing. We had some money that we'd saved during college, ironically, due to some competition wins and some money that we had. And of course, we ultimately had to take money from home, me and Mukund. So we went and invested about, I think 25 lakhs back then. It was a decent amount of money actually, because we didn't feel that. Our worry was that हमने कमाया zero है, and we are starting at negative 20 lakhs. Is not a good thing. honestly, for the 3 years, our parents barely acknowledged what we were even trying to do, because they used to think that we are trying but failing miserably at it, and probably that was right.
Right. Actually, they can see through us.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So you raised your funding in 2016 or something?
Yeah, in 15. So we did an angel round in 2015.
Okay.
During that time, actually, it was one of our customers, Dr. Pramod from Fidelity Diagnostics.
Okay.
They are a diagnostic chain in Pune, and then kind of expanded to Goa and other places. So they implemented a solution for the radiology and the lab business. And when they implemented, they really loved the whole solution and the experience, actually. And he said, are you looking for investment? And as like entrepreneurs, you're always looking for. Like if somebody comes and asks you, like the answer is always yes, right? So I said yes. So he asked how much, and we said about 50 lakhs. And he's like, 50 lakhs is less. Do you think you have like bigger plans? And that's when I realized that, okay, I undershot this. I told him, let me go back, work this out, come back in a day or two with a better number. Okay. He's like, yeah, sure. If you can have a plan and something, come back and let's discuss. I'm like, okay. And that's when that investment happened. He and his friend, like Dr. Samar, they both invested as angels. And 2 years after that, they actually really taught us how to manage cash flows and how to manage like collections and certain challenges that big businesses can sometimes like bully you. And how to kind of manage that in like business and healthcare particularly. Both of them are doctors, and they're from like diagnostics, pharma field. So that really kind of gave us a perspective. And they're also entrepreneurs themselves. Okay. So that was also very helpful. Right. Post that, we did another round with Nexus of about $1 million, slightly more than that. And with that money, we went global. Okay. So this was in 2018. Okay. So 3 years actually, 15 to 18, we were like surviving on angel money, and then like with some VC money. Okay.
So by international, which all countries now Crelio covers? So we cover. Has it been like a custom approach for each country, or like how?
Somewhat, not too much. Also, of course, US is very different. But so we cover 3 major geographies: that is US, Middle East, and like Southeast Asia, which is India and neighboring countries. We do business in more than 30 countries, though, but rest all is totally inbound and through existing customer referrals. Okay. As far as Middle East is concerned, we've got an outbound effort. Like India, we've been around for much longer. We've got more than thousands of labs in India that use our solution, and some of the big names, like among the top 10, about 4 of them use our solution. Okay. And US was something which ultimately evolved into a very different go-to-market motion. The way customer personas are placed, because the healthcare system, the billing experience of the healthcare system changed a lot. And Middle East, it is changing very similar to how US healthcare system is today. Okay. So, but of course, Middle East is very close to home, and of course, like culturally, they're closer to India. Yes. So that helps. Okay.
So then I think, COVID happened, and I believe that would have helped business in a good way. Yes. So tell us more about those experiences, and because I know for a product that you have, I think there would have been like a huge surge of demand suddenly because, labs had to probably entertain their customers and they needed systems to scale up and stuff.
That's right. Like, actually, this COVID story was, the start of COVID was also quite funny, actually. What happened is, so at the end of 2019, we, post-Nexus investment after like 2 years, we were just started increasing our revenue.
Okay.
Right? It was a shaky road. We did a lot of investments into certain like expansions, but it kind of like it didn't work out exactly like that. Yeah. And obviously there are like tons and tons of failures that I'm sure you like. So
you have to take our bets basically.
Correct. And some bets didn't work, and then and we kind of figured our way through, and we were just like starting to grow in Middle East and neighboring countries. And then what happened is then COVID happened, right? So in so our appraisal cycles internally are like calendar year Jan.
Okay.
So we did our appraisals, and then
created goals for the year.
Yes, yeah. And then in Feb we started hearing news about so and so outbreak, and at the end of Feb we asked everyone to just start working out of home, and like because it was already like we were very flexi anyways in terms of how we work. So like that shift to working out of home was fine, and then March end everything was shut. Right. That transition, our sales got stalled, so we compromised heavily on the Jan quarter. April, May, June, there was barely any like food coming through, so there was no other business that could ever thrive. I think since July, there were lab testing starting to emerge, but still not very pervasive because it was still early stages. The kits were very expensive, machines were rare, and those instruments were like, so imagine the pressure that pharma companies would have to manufacture so many equipment and ship globally, because every country in the world wants it and wants to test as much as possible. So obviously in India, like the bigger labs had it first, but soon those mid-size and smaller labs actually started having. What we did first was we wrote a commitment email to our customers and said that we are committed to this industry and market, and we will continue to serve and give you the necessary technology capabilities you need to set up a code testing business. We set up code workflow manager where people could understand best practices and steps. We also help them set like reports, instruments. We created a COVID support group for all our customers and outside lab, this thing where we could, where people could share which distributors are working, which, how to do logistics in those like cities or states and so on and so forth. And those kind of conversations were happening. So that was quite interesting. Though the business was not great because obviously we had the labs weren't testing, right? So nobody was really testing at the same scale or rate at what a normal hospital or something would test. And so I think it still brings back like all sorts of different memories, to be honest. Like it was a rocky time. We also our leadership actually had to take cuts during that time. And we didn't lay off or we didn't ask anyone to leave actually. In fact, we said that we'll retain all, and the leadership will take a like cut, which we eventually paid back after a year. And I think that was a time when we as a company were tested because we just came out of like a lot of shaky decisions, and then again went into a different one with like no direction. And that was crazy, with very little cash flow, and we had to figure that thing out. So in the commitment email to customers, we just requested one thing from them, that don't stop our subscriptions. Right. And more than 95% of our customers, like not just in India and worldwide, just supported us throughout, and that was lovely. Because as a SaaS company, you have to understand, right? Like if they stop, you're gone, right? And I think that was, I think, just like like a blessing of our customers, people ultimately. So, anyways, that worked out.
These things make you stronger as a company, as individuals. I would, as a team bonding, I'd say.
Correct. Such scenarios are hard to have, right? And you better make the most of them. That's right. So that is how it was.
So now that Crelio has a good scale of people, like as a founder, as a CEO, how do you manage the different duties and responsibilities? How is it different from hustling everywhere to
Yeah, I think
work
I'm
like
not
today?
sure if I'm like doing a great job at it, but I'll try and take a shot on how I'm trying to do this. Uh, what I do is, okay, I think we think of, like, I mentally think of this in like kind of concentric circles. I think like our customer facing teams, which are like sales, service, and marketing, especially people speaking directly to customers, are like the outermost circle where they are basically like managing the company reputation, communication, values. They basically become like people who are great communicators and who can also like connect or bond, like have a good conversation with,
Okay.
like
So would
customers.
these be like customer support and business
Support,
people?
sales, and marketing.
Okay.
More so on sales and support though.
Okay.
Heavy on that actually. In fact, we need people who understand the problem and who can communicate it better, who can prioritize, and who can show value. And showing value is very important in sales and service both,
Right.
Especially in a B2B environment. Otherwise, people will come up with like one problem that you have, and that becomes the entire premise of the discussion. Everything comes around that, and then years that you've worked with them, the hundreds of problems you've solved just get diluted.
Right.
So just bringing in that perspective is very important, especially in a business setting that we work in. And then comes the next set of people, which is like performance marketing and like operations, like internal company operation, administration, and then at the center we've got like product and engineering.
Okay.
So I kind of think of it this way, where we take in feedback from all sides and ensure that we are building what needs to be built.
Okay.
Ensuring we are getting constant feedback from customers.
So how do you make sure that the inner circle gets that feedback from the outer circle?
So the okay, one is the type of people that you have, but the inner circle needs to also go out and speak to a lot of different people, and they need to do this often. So we do like cross-departmental meets where everyone's there, and we are just talking about like things we are doing from either of the side. Sales and service will often talk about their key customers and the challenges they are facing, and then we kind of go deeper into that. Many a times we would go and speak to the customer directly and just understand, like, and also tell them about what we are building in the future too, right? So that is one way. The other way is we've got a feedback request tool where either our internal team or customers can request features or functions, and people can vote. So it's a board with voting, and then so the product team then picks up, has conversations with those people, moves ahead. So that kind of, and of course there are things that we can't vote for, where there are major developments or company like product direction level stuff. Right. So those things maybe customers need not vote up, but we know it is very important. So for such things, it is
you have to use your gut feeling too. You have to bring the art to the science.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So it's kind of like that.
Okay. Nice. So looking back in this journey that has, like spanned for a decade, what are the top 3 things that you look back that, that you want to count upon and would like to share those stories? Like what were these 3 aha moments in your product journey? If you'd like to.
I think one thing that...
And some context to those journeys.
Sure, yes. I'll take a shot. I don't know, I don't have those 3 things exactly prepared, but I'll definitely take a shot. I think first is knowing your worth or value, right? Like you need to know the product or service that you're offering has to be valuable. It can't be a notional value in the sense that it can't be a value that you think has value. It has to be a value that your customers believe they're ready to pay for. And the best way to test value is ask for a price that they would be okay to pay for. Even today, like feature requests, when we ask for, would you pay for it and how much would you pay? And if people say zero, we don't even consider the word. No, it's not.
Right.
And we
that's sanity check.
Correct. Yeah. Because it's important that it's not that we will always price for it. It's like majority of the functions we'll release are with no cost. Right. We'll only price on like tiers or layers when we think that it is pushing a barrier significantly higher. Right. So pricing right and pricing upfront is important. Many entrepreneurs and what do you say? Like people just starting up underestimate this piece. I feel that so they think price बाद में figure out कर लेंगे. They shy from it. Discussing money
makes it so clear.
Yes,
as you say it.
Yes, you have to discuss money because your business is how much ever you like it, don't like it, it's going to run on it.
Right.
So you might as well have
money is important.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Like as important as anything else, like product innovation. Right. Like you have to figure out like the right financial practices, making sure it's upfront actually. Right. So that is one. Okay. Second, I think second thing that I would say is it's a bit contextual. We learned it much later in kind of a hard way, that we realized that the potential in the India market is so India is a great place to experiment and learn things. Because there's just so many opportunities. The thing is, each of those opportunities don't pay that well. Right? Together, maybe in like clusters of them, definitely so. But individually as a business, like for B2B, it's not like a very high value market. I think when people do, though it is very counterintuitive that some of the best B2B SaaS software is actually from India. So it's hard to kind of piece that. But I think ultimately I feel that market is changing big. And starting from India gives you a lot of advantage because you figure out certain problems that other markets have probably not.
Especially related to the size and the unique problems that come in India.
And especially at the cost that you would end up offering. And then I think...
Or the cost to build it even.
Yes, experiment. Cost to build it too, yes. So then getting to international markets is like much, much higher value.
Right.
And I think my suggestion there would be always explore international markets with a confidence that you would be able to do it like in India market. We did US market about seven years after we started, always thinking that US is too complex and too difficult and it's not possible to do it. So just that thought basically limited us from doing it, and today we've got more than hundreds of customers in the US. So I think and we still think our product is not ready for the US, beat that. So it's like we think, okay, ye aur karne ka, and it has to be like the best product that we offer in the market. And then we realize that that market is something that we could have done all this while working since the beginning, so that and I think finally I would say that find a way to create something that your talent wants to be with you. That your talent stays longer with you. Make sure you are connecting them. Ultimately, I think one of the things that we realize about Gen Zs, and I don't want to label it particularly, but I think one of the things we realized very evidently is the younger generation is far more emotionally connected than like logically connected or monetarily connected. Like of course they matter, but they're quite emotionally connected. So for them, a rational reason to not work is also sometimes I didn't feel like, or I didn't connect with it.
True.
And
the values, how you make that value system, and
correct. And they need to feel it, right? They need to experience it, because
it's not just like writing on the wall.
Correct.
Like how you can into your day-to-day.
You would notice that the senior engineers are very they know exactly what to expect, and they don't expect more. So they're like, I'm doing this job, I'm going to do this, and this is my work, 9 to 5 is this thing, and I'm going to do whatever I can here, right? And they think of it as a lifestyle, right? But the next generation doesn't. Like, I think to a large extent, even our generation, like maybe like back like few years, have always thought about jobs as a responsibility rather than an opportunity. And the Gen Zs don't look at it as a responsibility. They look at it as an opportunity. So that changes it a lot.
So Abhimanyu, why not you share a bit more about the team management, the culture setting that you take care of at Crelio, how you manage a large team, and especially getting the best out of that team that every product company needs.
Sure. Okay, so I think
and is your team all at one place, or are they spread out?
Most of it is in one place. We're based out of Bane, mostly here. We have some people outside, but not too much. When I started the company, I think one of the things we did like about the internships we did, not to specifically name companies, but we realized that there is a very top to bottom culture, and people always are telling things to do. On one side, I didn't really like it. I didn't want to create an environment that I'm constantly telling people about things to do. Though sometimes it's inevitable, especially when you have a task list.
Right.
But I kind of refrain from doing it, and I kind of discuss ideas. And so I realized we need to have a culture that is so people trust each other, the management as well as the team. Second, there has to be a culture which is more we kind of there is mutual respect. I think one of the things that has constantly come is there has to be mutual respect, whoever it is. We take care of people. So there are times when we have to take decisions on people, but even then we kind of manage it very respectfully. We've made mistakes and we've understood and learned a lot from them, but I think at outset we do a decent job at managing that.
Right.
And ultimately, I think we kind of believe in a lot of like organizational transparency. So there have been times when so we've got so the ways to kind of show these three core cultural values. One is we don't have a leaves policy. So people can take leaves whenever they want. The only this thing that we end up having is you need a managerial approval. There are certain teams जिसमें hard time नहीं हो पाता है because service है, rosters रहते हैं.
Right.
So and we do a 24/7 service because again healthcare hospitals है. So but anyways, so apart from that, but we don't necessarily deduct pay. Basically, whatever leaves you take, आपका शादी है, भाई का शादी है, फिर there's an event or situation that you have to deal with. We don't.
You are basically empowering people.
Yes. So the core, this thing behind that is we don't deduct pay for people. Second thing we do is we make sure we give them all the necessary resources that are required. Of course, laptops, but then any workstations that they need, any experimental like softwares or tools they have to buy to get that job done better. All of that, like you want to experiment with a couple of solutions. Okay, we can do that. And so each of now what has happened is different departments have their own group of softwares that they use internally. I'm sure it would be right, and I think that autonomy is with the department itself or the team or the manager itself. I think that is there. And till the most time, we actually did not have secluded rooms or cabins. We in fact changed that last year. We did a remodeling of our office and put cabins for senior management primarily. And my goal of doing that was primarily to get them to a room so that they can think and not get clouded on their decision making. That was what my goal was. But though, of course, we keep these rooms available for people if they want it. So kind of really making... So the way to kind of improve transparency was the third value, is to share our numbers. Whether we are doing low, okay, we are doing low, we share it. So we maintain that transparency that up or down, this is the number. If we make great profits, okay, this is what the great profits we've made. And another way to include that is give some set of ESOPs to stakeholders or people. And basically creating these kind of, it's really how you think and how you do small things that really actually make that difference. Many a times when anybody would join our company, they would have incredible amount of comfort to work. So we'll make sure anything from coffee to, and it will be like good or slightly better than average, of the entire experience. You're onboarding to like how the place is maintained. We've got a lot of plants in the office, and we've got a lot of airy office that way. So and lot of natural light. So again, not like anybody's going to. It's not going to matter, but it just makes it like that 10% better. And we know that we want to create an environment that is more pleasant and more nice to work with.
Okay.
So these are those small things.
Yeah, small but big.
And would love to host you someday. We are in fact almost neighbors.
Right.
So
definitely. So when you're coming to the last part, like this podcast is viewed by many of the people who are sitting on their ideas, looking for ways to take the leap and building that strength from inside and so on. Right. So what would be a few lessons that you would like to share with those first-time founders if they have an idea, how to pursue it, or what to do, what not to do, things that come to you?
So one of the things that like me and Mukund, I think I'm sure would have similar thoughts, is to be is to learn to be dispassionate about the idea and distance it in a way that you can assess it more logically. Many a times people are so passionate about something they want to do, they dismiss the logical scope and opportunity or the practical implications, applications of it. Like for example, I've seen, so I do mentor like a couple of startups in healthcare as a part of my give back to the Stanford Seed community, which I was a part of in my early time. So and during that time, some companies that I worked with are trying to create like apps or services where maybe I see there is not a great market, but I always am trying to encourage them to distance the idea and the business from yourself. You're not that. Right. You're yourself, Right. And once you distance it, you look at it more objectively. Right. And you're not afraid, or you don't resist, or try to avoid failure. That mindset of avoiding failure makes you so risk averse that you are just फूक के चलने वाला situation. And it's that entrepreneurship, it doesn't work. Right?
You have to be brave to take some bets.
Yeah, and you have to to fail. So I think that yes.
Great. Any anecdotes that you'd like to share, that somewhere that you were brave and it worked out, or maybe you failed but then you're proud of that failure?
So for COVID, I think it was one of the things that I would say we were actually quite brave. So we decided that we would go on site and travel the entire country and meet customers.
Okay.
In a sense to revive the efforts for the India market.
Okay.
And like peak of second wave, we were going in hospitals, government hospitals, and meeting customers to understand what opportunities there are.
Okay. And they entertained you?
They did, because actually they desperately wanted solutions where they could do more things in lesser time.
Right.
Unka problem tha ki they are so understaffed that they barely had, and so they were looking for COVID solutions, of course. So we worked with a lot of airport authorities, even wahan pe, ensuring that these all like Mumbai Airport, Delhi Airport, all international airports testing and this thing, working with the Air Seva integrations for online sign-ups, getting those done. It was a lot of work actually, and to be honest, just the month or a couple of months before all this started, the entire team was so down that there was not a single lab ready to do business, because nobody had the cash flow or the capability to get those set of equipment.
Right.
And 6 months later, we were actually working with like SRL metropolises of the world. So it was like that. Like it doesn't, in hindsight, it doesn't look that brave, but that those time when we were all at home, we weren't seeing each other at all, and everything was uncertain. We didn't know kal aayega solution ya next saal.
Right.
And in that time, just saying that, you know what, forget all this, let's go and meet and go out of the house was different. Getting into the US market was something similar, where we are like, there have been like times, about 3 to 4 times, which have been existential crisis for us. COVID was that time when we went into the US market because we felt that we might not end up doing a steady business in India. And if we have to eventually shut down the company, then might as well try US and shut down the company. We're not having to try US. So that is how we thought. And we were like, okay, might as well. And then that's what we did.
So Abhimanyu, I have a few rapid fires for you.
Sure.
Why don't you, jump the gun?
Okay.
So talking about Pune,
Yes.
because you built everything in Pune,
Yeah.
our own city.
I'm a Pune, like,
Yeah.
sure. Yes.
So what is the first thing that comes to mind when I say weather?
Oh, it's pleasant. It's a bit hot right now, but it's generally very pleasant. I still remember every time I come out of the flight on Pune airport, it just feels slightly better that I'm home.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's that smell of air.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
Your favorite spot for food in Pune?
Quite a few actually. Like I like Kalyan Bhel. I like, those are more of like street food chaat. And then we used to go. I don't know if you guys have been to like Bedekar Misal.
Yeah, right.
And Katakir.
Yeah.
And like
popular
those,
joints, yeah.
like, yes, that is something that friends ke saath, or then, Woman Cafe, or that kind of is like, makes.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, but there's just too many, right? Like
Right.
Vaishali and
Traffic of Pune.
metro work, not good. The traffic not good because of that. Yes. This side is far better. Like
Yeah.
your area traffic is
Yeah.
like perfect.
Right.
Is it too crowded going home?
Yeah. So that's why I like to be here only. Like,
Okay.
try to avoid.
Okay. So you from here to office is not.
Yeah, because I just take the highway. So
Okay.
it's on the highway.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
Yeah. People of Pune.
People are like Satyajit mentioned, like witty. So for sure. So witty and I think very creative. So I feel like they're creative in a different way. But yeah, creative.
Okay. And building a startup in Pune compared to other metro cities of India. Pros and
Must do.
cons.
I think if it's far better in terms of the talent you would get, and I think things are not too fast or rushed. Like Mumbai, I feel everyone's rushing, but I don't understand why. And Pune is like that, right at space, which is not too fast, not too slow. I feel maybe it's because I've been here most of my
Pune
life.
is definitely a comfort city.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I think for tech, it is like ideal because it's nothing necessarily needs to be done like now.
Okay. Great. So thank you so much, Abhimanyu. I believe it's a pleasure
Yes.
that you were able to take out time today.
No, it was like lovely meeting you. I think would love to kind of have a conversation or maybe a beer later sometime. But absolutely,
Let's do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Good one.
Cool.